And we are on filmsgonewild.com. My name is John Wildman, and we're going to talk about the film A Fisher's Right to Know. And we have with us a trio. We've got John Haley, the director of the film, Justin Overton, the executive director and a subject in the film, and Victoria Miller, fishing guide coordinator on the film. It's great to have a chance to dig into this film, much more so than the three of you were able to dig into it on the green carpet, full of all kinds of loud noises and hoopla and fanfare. But now we get to talk about the film a little bit more. So let's start off with introducing our audience to the film. They have not had a chance to see this as yet. So John, tell us about the film.
Yeah, so A Fisher's Right to Know is a short documentary film that looks at fishers in Alabama and how they navigate the contaminated waters, basically, of rivers in Alabama. So right now in Alabama, fishers don't have a right to know where waters are polluted or where fish are unsafe to eat. And a lot of people are fishing out of these, bodies of water with the intention to eat the fish. So there's no legislation that says that they should be able to know whether or not the fish are safe to eat. And so this film kind of looks at this complicated issue and how we might be able to change it and ensure that every fisher does have a right to know.
It's funny because I come from a family tradition of fishing. It's kind of like a rite of passage for the men in my family to make a trek up from Indiana to North Ontario, Canada. Once a year, and to do that. And so I came into the film, having that, kind of in. Ingrained, in me, which gave an added resonance toward what this film is about, which in fact begins with Justin. It's actually kind of funny just because of how you open the film with, look, water looks all great behind me, doesn't it? But guess what? and that's the thing is that is what is so insidious about this. So I want to start off with it in this way, and and Justin and Victoria, I want to get to you very quickly. But John, I first want to start off with how you lay out the information, because as a filmmaker, listen, it's like this is a duh subject. This is like, yes, of course, duh. But as a filmmaker, you need to present it in the right way. Otherwise, your audience can tune you out, or they actually may not get it. And so you have to be very careful in those regards. So talk about the challenge to do that within a short film.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and I think there were a number of challenges. But one of the nice things was, I was making this film, but I was also learning along the way too, and had Justin and Victoria to educate me on what really were the issues that they were seeing, and what were the discussions that they were having with fishers and policymakers, and kind of give me a sense of this world that they've been working in for some time. But I think also it is very important that if you tell a story to I don't know. I think if you get too one-sided, or you get bogged down in certain issues or political identities, I think the key here is to show that this is impacting people's lives, and this is, at the end of the day, there are people who want to fish in these bodies of water, and they want to eat the fish, and there's a risk there because the waters are contaminated. That's the core of the issue, and that's. So I think it's important to emphasize that, and you see that in the film. You see people who have fished, for years and years, and how they want this, and it's important to them, culturally. It's important to them for the relationships that they develop that way. And so yeah, I think just kind of emphasizing those personal stories is really important.
And Justin and Victoria, I want for both of you to talk about this because the two of you, in many ways, are on the front lines, on this topic, on this subject, and so the weight of educating people, whether or not you're happy to take on that role or not, falls on the two of you, others as well. But in the context of who I'm talking to right now, it does. And so I would love for both of you to discuss that in terms of this film, because when you have a film like this, then you are given an opportunity. You're literally given, a camera on you and what amounts to a megaphone to discuss this and, or to be a part of it. So talk about what that meant and also how you embraced that or not. So Justin, let's start with you because you're also an executive producer on this.
So for me, my family is from the Coosa River Basin, and I grew up eating fish out of these waters, and we had no idea. So when I started working at Coosa Riverkeeper about 9 years ago, that was one of the first things that I really dove into was how can we elevate this public health issue to the public in a way that's digestible, like pun intended. Because I think a lot of people, it's not normal before you launch your boat or to drop your line in water to think, could this fish cause cancer? Could this fish have, cause neurological defects for, a child that a woman may be trying to conceive? So I feel like Coosa Riverkeeper is in a really unique position to take what state agencies can't or won't do and really apply it at a grassroots level. And that's what Coosa Riverkeeper has been trying to do. And a huge part of our success has been the storytelling in that intergenerational tradition of fishing that you alluded to, that so many families have fish fries as a means of bringing community with their families or their neighbors, whether that's getting out on the water with someone that's in your family that, it's a huge way to spend quality time with somebody is to get out on the water and go fishing. In addition to that, there's a lot of mental health aspects to this. Victoria knows this personally, going out and talking to fishers on a beautiful day, it's therapy being on the water. So there's this really difficult job that we have to try to educate people about these advisories while also arming them on how to make better decisions for what they're fishing for and where they're fishing. That has really turned into this pretty huge statewide issue that Coosa Riverkeeper has been leading the charge on for the last decade or so. And now, we have a full-time staff person in Victoria that's dedicated to this, which has helped this program grow exponentially.
Yeah, Victoria, I just imagine you wandering up and down the banks and talking to people going, yeah, listen, have a great time. Oh, and by the way, the fish that you're trying, let me just tell you a couple of things, but enjoy, have fun. So yes, please add your part on this.
Yeah, absolutely. A large part of the work I do is going down, like you said, and talking to these people about their experiences fishing. The way I approach it is we open a conversation about how we like to fish on the river and what it means to us. And if they do eat the fish, I absolutely, I share the advisory information with everybody, but I have a handout that I give to anyone that eats the fish. So I don't have to be the pessimistic one that's like, well, don't eat this fish now. And if you have eaten it, you got to go to the hospital. That's not happening, of course. So I spend a lot of time learning from these fishermen, learning their stories, and we do an exchange of information that feels really beneficial. And from year 1 to year 2, I've seen growth in the program, and many more people are saying that they rely on our organization for this information. But as a part of that, we say our state agencies need to step in and do a better job.
One thing that I have to admit was encouraging to me, and John, I don't know, how deliberate the process was here, or whether or not this was just this was the guy to talk on this, but we have a Republican representative who speaks on this, and listen, I live in Dallas, Texas, where the political opinion is it's business gets to do everything. And listen, and if it happens to explode right next to where your house is, or it happens to pollute where you are, or or whatever, hey, that's just tough. You're just going to have to knuckle under. But this guy is is clearly looking at this and going, this is affecting people in a lot of ways, and we've got to do something about it. And it's sad that we live in a time where it's so polarized that we go, listen, if it's a Republican, they're going to say, open up the spigots and let all the crap come out, just as long as we get big dollars coming. And so for that to be a huge surprise to me, it's sad that that is the case. And yet it was a huge surprise to me, and something that I was like nodding to myself going, well, at least there's that. At least you have that on your side, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is how we should be, talking about environmental issues, is that we should, we should get everyone on board who we can, and we should challenge, the typical, conception that Democrats are pro-environment and Republicans are anti. We should say, we should talk about these environmental issues in the communities where they're happening. We should talk about them at the local level. We should talk about, the real impacts that people feel every day. And we should get everyone who's willing to work for, any change we can get to join in the effort. And so I think that's kind of part of the message is, there are plenty of things that I think, we disagree on probably, but there's also, always area for common ground, and always area to find a way to move something forward that's really, carries the potential to really better people's lives. If we were to get, Fishers' right to know legislation in Alabama, it'd be fantastic. And if Senator Jones is on board, that's fantastic too. So.
Right. The last question I had goes into what the film means as a tool for the three of you going forward. Now, John, you of course it's a learning process for you, because it's not like you were working on behalf of the organizations trying to bring about change. But whenever you make a film like this, the de facto thing that happens is you become something of an expert in it, and thus you can speak out on it. Now, of course, Victoria and Justin are evangelizing forever and a day about this. And in fact, Justin, I have to admit, I was watching it like going, something, I want Justin to have her own show. Because I was loving your personality on camera was so fun and entertaining. I was like going, something, every week, let's go with Justin to another river. And
oh, that's funny. That's very funny. I don't know that that's a good idea at all. It would need to be the HBO. Yeah, it would need to be HBO.
The question, though, is for the three of you, is that, and for Victoria and Justin, now that this film exists, is this something now that over the film festival tour, because I assume, we're usually, a short like this can have a life of a year, maybe even longer on a film festival tour. So the two of you now have this in your arsenal, and and John, just again by its very nature, you are now a third spokesperson in regarding to this issue. So Victoria and Justin, let's start with you. Do you look at it that way? Do you go, oh great, now for my short attention span people, I can give them a film and go, will you just watch this? I'll tell you what, just watch this, or not.
Yeah, so I think my favorite part of this film is the timelessness of the father-son duos that are in the film. Because everybody's got somebody that, everybody's a daughter or a son of somebody, right? And you have that, it's like very tender, I feel like. Chuck and his son, Caleb are, we know them. We know all these folks personally. Senator Andrew Jones is a dear friend to Coosa Riverkeeper. And I think that other than the tenderness of this film, that it it really highlights the economics of being on the water and outdoor recreation and fishing and what fishing tournaments do. So I think having Senator Jones speaking up and speaking out on film and really trying to be like, this isn't a political issue. This is an economic driver. This reservoir and this river brings in tourism dollars. People come here for fishing tournaments and spend money at gas stations and hotels. And so it really it kind of closes the gap of people who try to make caring about our world and our public health a partisan issue by also bringing it in a very subtle way that like this is an economic driver, and if we continue to ignore the way these advisories affect the public and the perception of that our government is not making this easy to understand for people, that we have so much more at risk.
Okay. And then John, let's finish up with you again. Now you are a dude in the know when it comes to this subject. Is that something you welcome, or is it something that you're like going, okay, I guess I've got to accept that, that the mantle of that.
No, it's absolutely something that that I welcome, and I think there's a lot of trust that goes into allowing someone to tell a story about the work that's being done, and I just I'm just really grateful to Coosa Riverkeeper for opening up and sharing the stories, and I think I hope it is a tool for advocacy and for continuing the push for Fishers' right to know legislation. So I think if that's what the film can be, that's fantastic. And I would definitely welcome that.
Awesome. Well, again, the title of the film is A Fisher's Right to Know. We've been talking with John Haley, Justin Overton, and Victoria Miller. The film has been screening at the EARTHxFILM Festival here in Dallas, and it's been great talking to the three of you about this movie.